Harald Hardrada was a Viking. In fact, he has been called the last of the Vikings, because with his death in 1066 died an era of Viking conquests that had started in Lindisfarne nearly 300 years before. And throughout his life, Harald did much to live up to the Viking name. He fought, plundered and cheated his way around the world, to fortune, and eventually to the throne of Norway. And incidentally, he was considered to be an accomplished poet as well. All this, combined with his reputation for decisiveness, Hardrada being a nickname meaning hard ruler, made him a figure whom Viking historians would look upon fondly. But Harald was not always destined for the throne. In the year 1030, at the tender age of 15, Harald fought alongside his uncle Olaf at the Battle of Stiklestad in an attempt to reclaim the Norwegian throne from Knut the Great. Harald's side lost, and he was exiled, first to nearby Novgorod, before making his way down to Constantinople. There he joined the elite bodyguard of the emperor, the Varangian Guard. We will skip over the details of the literally Byzantine politics of Constantinople, but during his time there, Harald made quite a name for himself as a military commander and amassed quite a fortune in plunder, some of it from the palace he was supposed to guard. Then, in 1046, the time came to return to Norway. Knut's last heir had died, and Harald felt he had a right to the throne. So he made his escape from Constantinople, which the sagas say was quite spectacular. Upon his arrival, he found the throne occupied by his nephew Magnus. He initially tried to take it by force with help from the Swedes before striking a deal with Magnus to become joint rulers. Then, a year later, Magnus died, supposedly of natural causes, leaving Harald the sole ruler, and he would wage war upon the Swedes for the next 20 years. Almost no sooner than they had made peace, Harald would receive an invitation from Tostig Godwinson to claim the English throne. In September 1066, the Norwegians, led by Harald and Tostig, attacked Northumbria. Harald Godwinson, the King of England, was stationed alongside the southeast coast with his troops to watch for a possible Norman attack, when the news reached him that the town of York had been sacked. As he realized that he had been on the wrong coast, concerned with the wrong invasion, he immediately ordered his troops north. They rode for an entire day and night straight, using the roads left behind by the Romans. Since they were on horseback, they arrived surprisingly fast at York, within a day after the town had surrendered. The Norwegians had not expected to meet Harald's army or any English troops whatsoever in the slightest. They had not put any scouts along the way and had left their armor in their ships, taking only their helmets, spears and shields with them for a march in the nearby area. The English thus advanced undetected and caught the Norwegians completely unaware at Stamford Bridge. Harald Godwinson told Hardrada how much of England he could have.
7 feet, or maybe slightly more, since you're taller than other men.
Thus concluded the negotiations, and the battle commenced. A poem written right before the battle is attributed to Harald Hardrada himself. We go forward into battle, without armor, against blue blades. Helmets glitter, my coat of mail and all the armor are at the ships. Although the Norwegian defense was solid and held its ground against the way larger English army, the formation suddenly broke up at some point, and Norwegian soldiers, including Harald Hardrada himself, charged at the English, about which survives another poem, written by one of his earls. Norway's king had nothing to shield his breast in battle, and yet his war-seasoned heart never wavered. Norway's warriors were watching the blood-dripping sword of their courageous leader cutting down his enemies. This continued for a while, until an arrow hit him in the throat and ended his life. Oh, wait, that's the wrong Harald.
Damn you, you dirty Norwegians! Damn you all to hell!
Despite Harald Godwinson's victory, the battle eventually turned out to have bad after-effects for the English king. 3 days after the battle at Stamford Bridge, William, Duke of Normandy, and later to be the Conqueror, landed on the south coast of England, the same south coast Harald had been vigilantly watching before moving his men north to stop the Norwegians. This invasion came at a bad time for Harald and his men. They had just fought a battle and were tired. Moreover, King Harald was forced to march his troops back to the south coast, travelling the same distance of hundreds of miles once again. On 14 October 1066, less than 3 weeks after the Battle of Stamford Bridge, Harald and his troops were completely crushed in what would be known as the Battle of Hastings. Final outcome was, as the chronicles mention, that in 1 year died all three. Tostig with Harald, King of Norway, and his brother Harald, who was perjured. Unbeknownst to him, Harald Hardrada's invasion had set in motion a chain of events that eventually led up to the Norman conquest of England. In doing so, he not only played a significant role in English history, but helped shape the country's fate as a whole. The English army had won the battle, but lost the war for their homeland.